friendly audience, welcome.
Yes, a true friendly audience welcome indeed. Welcome to Voices of the Old Ones. I'm joined by my co-host, Lanup. Gomez.
Hello, buddy. It's Gomez. I was going to
Yes.
say, but yes, good. Gomez from Land Up, but you know,
Yeah,
it's all
yeah,
good.
yeah.
It's all gravy, baby.
Oh, jeez. Today we are going over. I wonder what we are going over.
Well, not much has really happened, really, has it?
Yeah, not a singular thing.
we got to scrape the bottom of the barrel to try and come up with content, haven't we?
Yeah. So we pushed back this episode by a week so we could review the entirety of the new set, and holy moly, I'm so glad we did.
Oh yeah.
Uh,
I mean, if we'd done it from when we did, I think the only cards that were out. So obviously, if we're talking for a week from today, the only cards were the free cards, right?
Yeah,
Or did we also have? Did we even have the time? Like, because Zillion wasn't out. I can't remember when. Did we have the cards before Zillion?
If we recorded after 5 p.m., we would have had the Zillion cards as well.
Okay, but
yeah,
no,
not
so
Zillion
basically,
himself.
we would have missed a lot.
Yeah. And then, like, our next episode would be a week into the expansion. So we offset things a little bit, and it's so good. I love Runeterra's their card design recently, pretty much ever since they did the Aphelios booster pack thing, set. Their card design has been amazing, or even the KDA cards, which were very controversial, but they were undoubtedly cool. They did things we hadn't seen before.
Yeah.
And yeah, I love the direction they're going with card design. They're straying away from the vanilla, which you would hope for a card game that is now aging.
Well, the thing of it is that, like, you know that at some point in the future, we don't know exactly when in the future. Obviously, we're going to be getting a 10th region at some point. But what I mean is, at some point, cycling is going to have to happen. And it depends on how they decide to work with cycling. It's going to be quite interesting, really. Because it's like, at some point, you do have to start that.
Yeah. I think we'll cross that bridge when we come to it.
We're talking a little way down the line, but I'm just saying that at some point that will start to become a factor. But shall we get in and quickly just cover the patch notes and then go in balls deep on the new cards?
Yep, I think that is a plan.
That's the plan, Stan.
That's the plan. I thought you had the patch notes open in front of you. Do you want me to go?
Okay, fair enough then. Patch notes.
Yeah.
Other than the standard stuff, obviously they talk about new cards being added. The two changes that have been made card-wise are to Atrocity and to Blighted Caretaker. Which, let's face it, I think we all knew the Atrocity one was coming.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That I would have bet money that Atrocity would get nerfed over anything else in that deck. I'm glad they also hit Blighted Caretaker, because holy moly, that card has been nuts since day one.
Value creation, indeed. I mean, and think about it. Like, they kind of had to hit Blighted Caretaker now because of the synergies that Blighted Caretaker actually does have with some of the new cards. Especially, like, the ones whereby, like, what's their face? The crowd guy who, whenever you summon something, his stats go up, like, +2. For each.
Yeah.
So literally, that card is already +6 to that one card.
Yeah.
So, you got to cut down somewhere something. So.
I think I really like the way they went with this nerf as well. Like, they didn't over nerf this card at all. They just took stats off of the body that stays, and the saplings maintain their stat line. Like, I think this is probably how the card should have looked since its inception. Is that the word? No. Since it was made. I would say that this is beyond healthy for Shadow Isles.
I mean, yeah, especially with, as I said, like the stuff that we've been seeing recently of like Slay and they say Slay and Fearsome, because obviously there's the guy who, whenever somebody gets slain, goes up and he's fearsome. So this is already like giving plus stats to that because it's killing something, and then you've got the chance of grabbing with the sapling things that could potentially die, and then you put that on the end. So it's a lot of value between those two if you were to use those kind of synergies together, which obviously is what it's talking about. So yeah, it is understandable that somewhere something had to lose a stat. It was the choice between I assume the choice was either keep it as this or it only summons one sapling. So
yeah, that would have probably been the other option, which I would have hated.
Oh, I think that a lot of people would have hated that. It's definitely because it summons more, because it's got so many more different uses. Like, for example, this is actually just an immediate draw one card full mana for the musician in what you
Hmm.
call it, Ionia. So yeah, no, it's a really good card, and I can kind of see why they had to remove at least one stat line somewhere.
Yeah, yeah. And as for atrocity, people have been like a lot of people anyway have been like screaming that this card should not even exist or like be reworked or deleted or whatever. I think it is very in Shadow Isles identity. I think having a finisher like atrocity in Shadow Isles is very on theme. It's a great, it's a very risky play, and it has great reward, which is like kind of the Shadow Isles, Mono Black in Magic, Warlock in Hearthstone. It's very what you expect the region to be doing. But yeah, it was very cheap, and
Yeah, I
I
mean,
was surprised they hit They Who Endure months back instead of Atrocity.
I feel like, like they had to do something with it because literally, I said, like, as you say, there was outcry beyond belief. At least this means that two can't be played in the same round because obviously, the way that it was before, you technically could get two out if you had full mana. So this just means that you can't actually get two out in the same turn. As you say, it is high risk, high reward. If you know for a fact that your opponents are going to be running like atrocity decks, any kind of frostbite, any form of killing the unit before it goes in, or even when it comes to Nasus, if you were to hush Nasus if he hasn't already leveled, there's certain ways of getting yourself around this to actually do a big impact. But obviously, like you hear the outcry more than anything. I know that a lot of people were saying that they actually wanted to see this become a slow speed spell. I don't
Mm.
know, like obviously, like I can understand the reason for it because obviously it can't be used in combat. It gives your opponent a few extra things. I don't know. I could actually have seen it going either way.
Yeah, I could see it being a slow speed spell, but yeah, I think Atrocity is a skill testing card and generally okay for the game. I obviously it needed the nerf, but I don't think it needs changed fundamentally.
Yeah,
Because like if you whiff your vengeance or whatever, like if you whiff your removal spell because they responded to it in whatever way, then you don't have your removal spell anymore and you've downtraded. If you whiff atrocity because they have interaction with the unit that you used your atrocity on, you're now down your biggest unit and your win condition. Like atrocity is has enormous blowout potential for the person casting it. So
yeah.
um, I think this is fine. This is cool.
Mm. The only other thing to note within these patch notes are, well, you might say the prismatic thing was interesting because the fact that the concurrent timelines now keeps the prismatic effects.
Yeah,
It's very important.
the biggest buff to prismatic, sorry, to concurrent timelines since its creation. Yeah,
That's very
and
important.
only.
The two other things out of all of this that I think is
Yeah.
important is number one, the mushrooms now do fully on their damage, not just because obviously when the net when Lysandra got added into the game and she had the ability to make the Nexus tough, she basically negated mushrooms as a concept in terms of if you were against that deck and the Nexus was tough because no matter how many shrooms you drew, it meant fuck all because literally the damage used to be correlated by it was one damage time like one damage, one damage, one damage, one damage like for each shroom that was hit, whereas now it looks like it's going to be correlating that and doing that as 1 point of damage. So technically, this should go past tough.
Yeah, yeah,
Depending on
totally.
how many shrooms you get, obviously.
It's
The tough
also
bit.
like less of a design issue going into the future because they really couldn't print cards with level up. Sorry, champions with like the level up condition. You have dealt damage X times.
Yeah,
They always had to print. You have dealt damage in X different rounds.
yeah,
Whereas now it's a bit more reasonable for them to have a level up condition like you've dealt damage X times.
yeah. So yeah, I think that I mean because the thing of it is that see it was really weird in my opinion the way that it worked because obviously it did do one damage each time,
Yeah.
but did Swain actually use the stun each? But like, if you got like say times 4 mushrooms and you had a leveled up Swain on the board. Did he actually stun 4? Because I never bothered to check out that
I have
synergy.
never checked.
That's what I mean. Because
Surely must, right? Or
I mean,
must have.
if it's hitting the Nexus 1 damage times whatever, I mean, does that count for Swain? Somebody get back to us in the comment section. Because honestly, I don't remember that being a thing. But to be fair, not many people were running Swain Teemo, so
Yeah, it was
obviously
it was always
it's
Sejuani Teemo.
yeah, exactly. So it's hard to tell. But you know, like you think in your head now. Wait a minute, would that have done that?
It's too late now. You'll
It's
never
too late.
know.
I'll never know. Oh, the ultimate, which we like Swain Teemo combo is gone forever.
I mean, the patch doesn't go live for like another 4 hours. I might
Quickly,
just
let's
quickly,
go.
yeah, I might jump on and check in a ball game after this.
But okay, right. The other thing, which is probably the saddest news of all, of which I'm sure we will see many members of the community in uproar about, but I will admit, it is a sad moment. That in patch 2.9, which is on the 2nd of June, which we are currently in patch at 2.7, so technically this is not coming into effect for 2 more patches, right? Like in
Yeah,
terms of BS, they will be cross shard friend challenges will no longer be supported. So for people who don't know what the hell that means that shards are like EU, America, Southeast Asia, like anything like that. That's how most games kind of separate into regions that you can play between. Now, obviously, cross shard meant that you could play anyone from any region in terms of in a duel. So they are sadly going to be getting rid of that, which kind of means that the grassroots tournament scene it's going to see a little bit of impact. Obviously, people will still be able to run tournaments. It's just that they will have to be region specific now.
yeah. I wasn't much of a tournament player to begin with, but a lot of my friends play on the NA server. I think if nothing else, this is definitive proof that America is just scared of EU players. Like,
Yep, you know, they can't handle our craziness.
yeah,
But
we've shown them one too many times, and now we don't get to play with them anymore.
because that's the thing of it as well is that it's not just the tournament scene that this like kind of like disrupts. This also disrupts just generally people who were just like we were building a lovely community and it was across the world, and so people were just challenging people from regions just for fun, for
Yeah,
friend challenges, just having a good laugh and whatnot. It says that the main reason that they're doing this is because cross shard challenge is one of the main culprits of what was taking up like room in terms of what they're planning to do in the future because they're saying that they've got further pipelines down the future, and this was kind of going against that. If I was to be a betting man, which let's face it, playing a card game, I mostly am, especially some of the stupid things that I try to do with RNG. My bet is because they want to make 2 versus 2 a thing, like as a game mode that will be playable. Potentially, maybe even a ladder game worth whereby you can play 2 versus 2 to allow more cooperative play. And I don't know if anyone realized this, but when we actually had 2 versus 2 play in the labs, you weren't actually allowed to pair up with somebody in a different region. Like that was the only
I
one whereby in labs you could not pair up with somebody in a different region. I'm guessing it's because of like there's certain logistics which go in that, especially when you've got 4 players in one game. It's probably easier
yeah,
to keep them all in the same region rather than to have them spread across multiple different regions. So I can kind of see where this is going, and we because we saw it as a lab and people got to experiment with it, but you don't do that much coding for how much of an endeavor that is if you don't have plans for that kind of thing in the future. So I assume when they say the further pipelines, it is 2 versus 2 going forward. And because obviously, yeah, again, we see cards printed with all players, which like not just both players, all players, and that like means that they're most likely are planning for this to be a thing. We've noted it before. These cards that say all player, which are all players. So I assume that's the reason why. Whether or not that can be justified enough of like losing that for that, we'll find out, right?
yeah. You actually got there before me. I was going to suggest the exact same thing. That I think that is probably exactly correct. I
But I'm a
can't
betting
imagine.
man.
Yeah, well, I can't imagine when else the spaghetti coding of cross shard would be a particular like barrier for entry unless it was more players in the game. So
Yeah.
4 player or 2v2, yeah.
Mm. It's a bit of a shame because it's really weird, right? Because what this is that they want to make. I'm guessing they want to make two versus two because they want something which is going to make the game stand out amongst card games. It'll be the only online card game that we have thus far, which allows you to do two players versus two players. Because obviously, from what we've seen in most other card games, it's just a one versus one kind of thing. So as a unique selling point, um, that is what I feel like they want to be trying to hit is
Yeah.
these two versus twos. Now, the comedy is they're actually losing one of their other unique selling points, which is cross shard friendlies, because I don't know about. I know that Hearthstone definitely doesn't have cross shard where you can go with people from any region. I'm not sure about other card games because I haven't played too much time in Gwent or like the Yu-Gi-Oh card game or the Magic the Gathering card game online, the online version of it, to know whether or not they actually do cross region or whether or not they don't.
Magic Arena has nothing going for it except the card game itself. Like, it is the worst client that has ever. It is a sin to God. Like,
Well, I said I know that Hearthstone definitely doesn't have cross
yeah,
shard, and I don't know about Gwent or other card games. I said like if anyone wants to let us know on those ones, but it's weird. They're losing one unique selling point for another unique selling point. That's the way that you're kind of in my head. I'm seeing it.
yeah. Well, Magic the Gathering, one of their most popular formats, if not their most popular format at this point, is Commander, the four-player variant, and
Yeah.
none of their online platforms support it. Not they have three big online platforms to play Magic the Gathering, and not a single one lets you play Commander.
Mm.
So I could definitely see Riot cornering that market.
Yeah, oh yeah, no, definitely. That's what I feel this is going forward. I feel like that's the reason why they've made this announcement now. So I said it's going to make a lot of people unhappy, but it depends on how the mode ends up coming out, right? Because that's the thing of it in terms of whether it was worth the sacrifice. We'll
Yeah.
find out.
So new cards.
New cards onto the light that is the glorious new cards which we have been given here. So,
Uh,
do you want to start us off?
a somewhat funny announcement by Ruben that I would never have noticed if he hadn't said it. I don't know if you saw this tweet. This set only has one Shadow Isles card.
Oh yeah.
They tweeted saying, "Oh yeah, that was just a complete accident, by the way," and I don't think I would have noticed if they hadn't said.
I mean, the thing of it is, it's one shadow card, shadow Isles card that can become two. So
Yeah,
does that count as two?
think of it as Shadow Isles got three brand new cards, but two of them were already in the game, and they're much worse.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do we just want to start from the bottom and like speed run through some of the less interesting cards?
I would say let's go with like hitting the main champs and then our favorite standouts because otherwise we will be here all day, mate.
Yeah, you make a good point. So shall we start with the one that got released first?
Time Wizard Man.
Old Man Zillion. Now, you are not a League of Legends player,
No,
so
I'm not.
I cannot express to you how beautiful it is to see this character given a new look of paint and some life. Because in League of Legends, he throws actual clocks at people, like just like alarm clocks,
Right.
and the animations are garbage. He has like three voice lines and they're all jokes.
Right.
Although one of the he has one of my favorite taunts in the game where he goes, "Time flies like an arrow, fruit flies like bananas," which is just like some really good wordplay. I enjoy that. But he is basically not a real character. In the lore, he's this almighty guy from Icathia, and it's so good to when I first saw his level up animation, holy mo.
I mean, it is an amazing level up animation, I'll give you that. So, is he the equivalent of, because I swear when we did a talk about Jarvan the Fourth, you just said that Jarvan, Jarvan just had the line, "For my father, the king." That's literally all he had. He had nothing going.
There are a lot of old characters with, which are aging poorly, but because they are old characters, they are very cemented in the lore, and they're very, very important.
Yes.
Like, Garen is another one. He doesn't say very much, but he's fucking Garen. He might as well be the main character.
Yeah.
And yeah, Zillion is an egregious example of that. He is really quite hideous in game. Like, oh my god, his model needs a lick of paint. And yeah, it's so cool to see him given life. I can already tell I'm gonna love his voice lines.
Oh, you know,
Uh,
without a shadow of a doubt, just looking at him and whatnot. Obviously, it's going to be interesting to see how consistent he is on leveling up in terms of like how quick you can level him, because his whole level up condition is that he's creating 4 time bombs, and then you have to basically at least draw 2 of them. And see them get destroyed. Now, obviously, there are ways you can make copies of those. There are ways that you can predict to try to get them out sooner. But it's going to be one of those things. It's going to be interesting to see how quickly he levels up. But when he does, my God, that level up the level up ability of which he has, which is basically allowing you to continuously, like, replay moves. Now, admittedly, not continuously, but playing moves you've already played and how much value that can generate.
Speaking of being a gambling man, his back face, I would have absolutely bet money that that was going to be the text on Echo. Like the
Yeah,
coming champion Echo, the PNZ card, because that is such a PNZ ability. It's not Shadow Isles. It's wacky. It's weird. It's P. Sorry, not Shadow Isles. Shurima. Uh, it's wacky. It's weird. It's very PNZ. It has fleeting in it, and
yep, that's
also
true.
Echo reverses time by a set period in game. Like in League of Legends, he reverses the clock by like 3 seconds. I would have bet money that this was Echo's level up, and now I have honestly no idea what that card's gonna do. But I'm glad this is in the game.
Oh,
It's such a cool effect.
now I want to know what Echo's one's going to be because I want to know how synergistic the two will be together.
Yeah,
Like in terms of
Echo has like this play style where he has a way of like stopping time completely in a small area, and he has the ability to rewind time, but only for himself. So we were having this discussion in chat the other day, and they were talking about the idea of maybe whenever he attacks, if he dies in combat, he rewinds and goes back to the bench. But like that doesn't feel very PNZ. If anything, that feels more Shurima.
that is true. Yeah, no, you're right. You're right there. I wonder what the hell they'll do with him. In all honesty, that's an interesting point that you put out here because yeah, it's gonna be one of those things that we're just gonna have to wait. You never know what the hell they're gonna do with
Yeah,
champions. Like it becomes an unexpected thing.
especially in PNZ.
Yeah. So obviously the comedy of the fact that he creates fleeting copies of like non-fleeting cards means that if you were to be in PNZ and use stress testing, you technically can get the same move off like twice or so.
Well, that's like pseudo infinite, right? Because the stress testing would also not be fleeting, so you'd get it back next turn.
It'd be fleeting next turn, wouldn't it? So then you'd be able
Oh
to
yeah,
get it
yeah,
done.
yeah, yeah.
You'd be
Sorry,
able to
yeah.
get it done that turn, but then you would unless you had unless you had 2 lots of stress testing.
Oh, when the
I don't.
fleeting one comes back to your hand, though, like you can just let it get discarded at the end of turn. That's a lot of value. A lot of value.
Oh, you know, definitely. Like this whole thing. He's a value machine. The one thing that I will say that you're going to have to bear in mind with Zillion and especially his level up is that you're gonna need room in the hand. Like in
Oh
terms
yeah,
of so you're gonna need quite a cheap deck for this to work. Potentially even like is it too stupid to say maybe even a discard deck? Like obviously you want to be running things such as rummage because you want to be drawing as quickly as possible so you can try to get to those time bombs. Now, obviously I said you can use predict mechanics as well. But potentially just like that kind of like discardy mentality, like maybe like Zillion with Jinx
that sounds amazing fun.
would
I'll probably try
would
that.
would be stupid, but also a little bit genius in the
Yeah,
fact that you would like to get the maximum value out of him. Because the thing of it is, yeah, no, sure saying, well, he's going to be making copies of cards. If you don't have the room in the hand, and the hand just like he's not going to start creating those cards, is what my point is. Because it is round start that he does this, so therefore meaning that your draw is most likely going to get burnt.
yeah.
So it's all about trying to find the best way of utilizing um which hit him, and that's what I'm gonna look forward to.
Playing rummages and like Jinx as well. The speed at which discard can go through its deck. We've seen it with Twisted Fate. Just take out the Twisted Fate, make Zillion your win condition in air quotes. Uh, you'll see your bombs faster because of how quickly you're going through your deck. And once you're through your deck, sorry, once you've leveled your Zillion, like imagine Flame Chompers being 6 damage apiece. Like that's a win condition in of itself.
Yes.
Also, oh no, it is fleeting. It is fleeting. You won't get Jinx's rocket back.
Yeah, no, so unless you use stress testing, in
Yeah.
which case you will, in which case you will get Jinx's rocket back.
Is this getting too laborious at this
I mean,
point?
it's getting a little bit crazy. The thing of it is that it's also very important to note about that whole fact is although his spell, his champion spell is burst speed, it is 7 cost, which as I said, in a deck, if you're not careful, you might not be able to play like in terms of like to get the full value. It's going to be hard to do in terms of the fact that you'll be doing that, and that's going to take up most of your mana, so you're not going to do the other thing. So that's what I mean. I feel a cheap deck with him is probably the way forward to make sure that you can get maximum value out of it. But that's just a take just by seeing it
Yeah.
personally. Like, but I might be wrong. Who the hell knows what we're going to say, right?
I think it's funny and probably worth noting that in the early days of this expansion where everyone is playing the same 3 champions, there are going to be so many zillion mirror matches
Oh yeah,
where
yeah.
it's just a matter of whoever draws 2 time bombs first wins
That
the game.
that is gonna be the thing, right? So shall we quickly move on to
Yep.
the next champion, just so we can like say we covered all of our champions.
Yep. God damn. I love this card so much. There was a lot of, or not a lot. There was a reasonable amount of backlash from this card because he's like boring in air quotes. This
Well,
big dude.
the
Malphite.
speculation before going into this, the speculation was everyone thought that Malphite was gonna be a landmark himself. Right? Everyone thought that Malphite was going to be a landmark that had a crack widget a countdown, and then when he hit that, that would be his level up condition, and then he'd become some kind of really big man who would be unstoppable. And obviously, if he was a landmark, there was the synergy with Talia, in which case, like, she could make copies of him. Like,
Yeah.
there's certain things that would have been maybe a little bit too crazy and broken. So I don't actually mind what they did with him.
Yeah, after I posted that thing on Twitter saying he better be a landmark with countdown for this to make sense, I mostly said that like tongue in cheek. I didn't expect for that to get like as much agreement as it did because there was no fucking chance of that ever being the case, right? Because we've already got like the forecast that says your countdowns trigger twice. How would that even work?
Well,
Like,
the thing of it is, right, that I feel. I mean, imagine if you could have used that on top of him and then used Tally. You just basically have like 4 Malphites like coming out whenever his countdown happens. But no, the thing I was gonna say is, I think the thing which led more credence and more kind of thought to that actually being a thing is before Malphite dropped, we saw Soothsayer as a card. And
Yeah.
Soothsayer, yeah, again, it's a very crazy Shurima card, which is that when I'm summoned, grant champions and landmark spell shield. So people will, well, that's going to mean you're going to get to that level up on Malphite if he's a landmark, because like people are going to be running landmark removal to get rid of him, and that would stop it. Like, it's like that. It was kind of almost the build up towards it as well, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. I am very happy with his design. People are talking about Yasuo synergy, which yeah, sure, whatever. But honestly, I just like Nautilus. His level up doesn't really represent very much. He turns into a big dude, but the text about your sea monsters costing less, you don't feel that really. Like,
Oh, you do.
Well,
You do.
sure,
How
okay.
dare you, sir? You feel it.
It makes a difference, but it doesn't. I don't know. It doesn't feel as if you've like dredged this titan out of the sea, right? Tryndamere, when he gets angry, gets a little bit bigger, but he's like not a bomb really. This champion just feels like you have played a mountain. Like you have dropped this enormous, almost immovable object onto the board. Like, once you're deep, it doesn't really matter that Nautilus is a 13/13 because all of your units are like 7/7s anyway, minimum. Malphite on turn 7 without having any level up like needed is a very tanky boy. Like, he's hard to kill.
Oh yeah, no, massively. I mean, like a 6/10 with tough.
Yeah,
It's a lot to take him out of the game. I think that literally, Nautilus is the only one who would trade with him, right? In terms of
yeah.
which it would trade like unleveled, because I guess leveled up Aurelian Soul would trade because he has 11. He's an 11/11, so he would trade. But
It,
Um,
it it is funny that Malphite can actually just take the brunt of a Aurelion Soul.
yeah, no, no. I
Yeah.
mean, he would take yeah, unleveled copy of him, definitely.
He wouldn't come out unscathed. Like
Can can
he'd
can
be
I
the lowly 6-1, but
can I confide in you a very stupid thing that I thought of being with this champion? It's stupid. It's
I'd
not
love to
gonna
hear it.
work. But it's something which I thought of, which would be very like because obviously Malphite is in the region of Targon. He's all to do with landmarks. Obviously, you would be running the Eye of like a Raharak or whatever the hell it's
Yeah.
called, which is that just because number one that counts towards like the majority of his level up
Yeah,
condition.
I think if you're not running the Eye of Raharak, you're literally griefing. Like, you must be, you're trolling.
Because I mean that counts as 10 towards like essentially 12. So he's near enough. He's near enough done. But what I was thinking myself was in a very stupid way, thinking of running this with Soraka and the healing landmark, and then throwing myself into Noxus for a Noxian arena. So that Malphite would start knocking into people with
Holy
those stats
moly.
and stuff, those stats and tough, and they're just healing my big boy up. I mean, that's what I was
That actually sounds like a lot of fun.
thinking. It's a very stupid deck concept, but a really funny one nonetheless.
Yeah, I don't know, like, what I'm gonna do with him. I'm probably just gonna throw him into some Freljord list and try to, like, curve him out in air quotes on, like, turn 5. And hopefully just win from there. This guy feeds my, like, big dude, like, power fantasies. Like, it's a very Timmy card.
I mean, the thing with it is that he actually really does have like in terms of stats, really good stats. But not only that, the fact that he actually like one of his landmark conditions, you could always run spiraling stairs, which allows you to basically like after countdown of 3. Number one, it's helping get him towards his level up, but number two, it is giving you a 0 cost slow speed in hand, which is Seed of Strength, which is a +3/+2 overwhelm. This big boy of overwhelm, especially in his leveled up condition, that is like 10 damage on overwhelm.
Yeah,
It's a big boy. It's a big
big
boy.
boy. Um, yeah, I don't know if I have anything more to say about Malphite. He's just a big dude, and I love him.
I mean, yeah, no, definitely. Like, he's something which demandeth respect. I will admit that much. Like that unit is a force to be reckoned with.
Speaking of demanding respect and a force to be reckoned with, and what is almost certainly the most competitive of these three champions,
Oh yes,
Irelia.
oh yes. That is definitely. She has come to save Ionia. Because let's face it, before this, Ionia was potentially the weakest region.
Oh,
Potentially.
potentially.
Look, no. I hesitate, Buddy Boo, because Swole Squirrel's in that region, and if anyone knows how to use Swole Squirrel properly,
It's true. That
it's
card demands a nerf.
then you know that it's not. It can not be the weakest region
Yeah,
if you're careful. But yes, no, definitely for a free drop. She is devastating. She still falls into that free drop potential where like a mystic shot could take her out, but obviously you are in the region which runs no Defy and Deny. So there is like and obviously also buffs, so you can get her past these kind of things. But it's insane. The blades and the amount of attacks that you could get from Blade Dance, and she is definitely a force to be reckoned with.
yeah. I love her level up so much. But more, I have one issue with it actually. Blade Surge,
Yes,
0 cost burst speed, swap Irelia with an ally.
yes.
If we are, being honest here, that very much should have been LeBlanc's level up. Like, our poor girl LeBlanc is like defined in League of Legends by her ability to swap places with her clones. Riot, please. She's yeah, that's just like a little thing. Is that I wasn't really annoyed when LeBlanc got released that she had like a little bit less flavor than some of the other cards. But now that I've seen this, now I am annoyed.
I feel that they had to think about this in terms of the card game as an overall factor
Yeah.
and put in switch or swap maneuvers into 2 regions rather than keeping them all safely contained within the region of Ionia was probably because obviously not only are we getting Blade Surge, which allows her to swap, but we're also just getting the two cost burst speed, shall we
Oh my
say,
god.
card, which is definitely going to see a lot of play. Which is
I
I somebody help me with saying the words
syncopation.
syncopation. Thank you.
Uh,
Which
I would hazard to guess that syncopation is going to beat deny for the most played card in the
yes,
Ionian region,
yes,
100%.
yes. The ability to swap allies is really powerful. Like we've actually had it for a very long time in Shen's spell, and which could like it's not just Shen's spell; it is playable as well, which allows you to swap 2 units and they get barrier. Now, the only problem that's been with that spell, and the reason why it's not been played as much, is because of its cost. It's 6 cost card. It's one of those things whereby it's a really powerful effect when you use it because that ability to swap 2 units can end games, and it's because of this card now that Ionia is going to be an unbelievable threat because you have to defend that entire board. You know, like when you see your enemy attacking, they've got like, a little 1-1 on the end, they've got all this other like big man stuff coming at you. You're like, okay, right. I'll block here, block here, block here. I'll leave the 1-1. It is pitiful. My core can take 1 damage. Well, now you have to seriously consider blocking everything because leaving even one thing not blocked gives the chance of boom, this can switch. Not only that, this is the region which has a lot of which goes elusive, which means that if you're not running elusive or any counter to elusive, this can swap in to hit that elusive spot, meaning that their big unit can be smashing in with no defense.
There's also the inverse where so as someone who's playing into Ionia, you have to be. Let's say you have a Puffcat Peddler in play, 3/3 with a powerful effects that you want to keep on board, and just for the sake of this situation being easy, your opponent has a 1/1 and a 4/4, both vanilla. You are if they have the mana for syncopation, and you have enough reason to believe that they're running it in their deck, which let's be reasonable, they will be.
Yes.
You are forced not to block that 1/1 because you will lose your Puffcat Peddler. You
Yep.
have to let the full brunt of the damage through. And you are going to find yourself doing that a lot running into Ionia now, where you look at the board, assess the situation, and realize that the only correct play is to not block anything.
I'll leave this time.
Yeah, you'll be looking at the board like, if I block here, then I lose 2 of my units in really terrible trades. If I don't block, I take 14. I guess I take 14.
So I think that the one thing to say, if you take anything away from this podcast, is craft 3 copies of Syncopation.
Yeah,
You will never,
100%.
you will never regret. You like if you want a hot take for cards definitely to craft in this set, Syncopation, do it. Trust us, you won't regret it.
Yeah, I would say that Syncopation is twice as powerful as the next most craftable card in this set, and I couldn't even tell you what that is. Like,
Yeah,
this set on the whole is like medium powerful, but Scrying Sands is probably the second most powerful. The burst speed predict,
yeah.
give a enemy -2/-0. That's pretty nuts.
But yeah, no, this syncopation, its ability to, like, as I said, like literally, it is forcing your opponent to realize that, yeah, as you say, like, if I do certain blocks, it's probably going to get switched around, and this is not going to be efficient for me at all. Maybe the better option is for me just to take the damage. But I said, like, there's cards, even such as I mentioned before, Swole Squirrel. The ability of making it so if they try to trade with Swole Squirrel, you do the little Yasuo, like shaky finger emote, and then switcheroo so the Swole Squirrel goes through undefended and starts getting that up. Like there's so many uses for this card, not even within its own region, in other regions, like even say swapping a leveled up Swain so that boom, it's hitting in and hitting that damage in on a spot where you haven't defended. There's so many different uses for this. A few people have been mentioning as well the idea of using this, say, with Lee Sin and having it so that you do the attack where you declare who you're going to be going for, and then switch him with an overwhelm unit so that his kick will go in, kick the unit in, and then the overwhelm unit will just smash
it
through
maintains targets. Oh, that's so stupid.
So there's people who have been coming up with ideas, and so there's so many things, right?
Who
So
thought of that? That's a fucking war crime.
there's I know people, Janky. I know people.
But that is a good point. Syncopation also does change targets. So, like, if you commit 7 mana onto I always use, it's the easiest example. If you commit 7 mana into Vengeance and your opponent 2 mana burst speed syncopation, so that instead you're targeting their least powerful unit on the board, you have lost that game. Like, that tempo swing will take turns of recovery, and usually by that time you will have lost.
Mm, yeah.
God, it's like, it's just better deny.
I mean, it is a very devastating card that, as I said, you will not regret crafting this. I can, honest to God, see us very soon later on down the line saying oh well, syncopation got nerfed and is now free
Oh
mana,
yeah.
or is now
when,
like
when,
two,
when,
like
when we say you won't regret it, we mean you won't regret it until next patch. Like,
yeah, until when this gets hit, because come on, you've got at some point in the future, this card's cost is going up. It's got to, right? Because
yeah,
if I feel like they've put it at this cost because people don't like the
get
only
it.
the only thing of swap that we've had, as I said, has been the Shen spell, and it's not really been used, and so people don't actually really realize how powerful a swap can be. And so once people start realizing it's going to be, oh, let's just put that up to 3 mana or
Yeah,
even four
yeah.
mana. Who the hell knows how that's going to go?
I would have expected this card to be a 3 mana fast spell or a 4 mana burst spell. Honestly,
Yeah, yeah.
I have played Shen Lux quite a lot,
Mm,
using Stand United to take cheesy, it just steals wins,
mm,
and this is at a much more competitive mana point. Like,
mm. And like I said, we're talking about Aurelia, obviously, we get to see her swap spell and that, but also what people have been saying with this Blade Dance is most likely you'll be seeing her with Azir to make those Sand Soldiers also attack when the blades are going forward. Potentially Misfortune, because Misfortune and Quinn both could potentially level up very quickly with these 3 attacks going in from the blades. So things to look out for, people. Things to look out for.
yeah. I posted a thing on Twitter that got like a reasonable amount of backlash. I Ribbon Dancer, the 2-cost 2/1 with Blade Dance 1. I posted a little meme comparing Ribbon Dancer to Dune Keeper, saying Riot just hates the idea of Ionia being good. I want to clarify. I want to clarify. That was more of a comment on Dune Keeper being completely obnoxious than Ribbon Dancer deserving to be a 1-cost. I understand that Ribbon Dancer will see play, but it is off the back of other cards like Emperor's Diaz and Misfortune. Ribbon Dancer in of itself is completely average. That is now on
Well,
record. Leave me alone, Twitter.
I mean, why does it's Deus, right? The way that that word
Diaz?
is
Diaz?
Emperor's Deus, right? Like, 'cause I swear, I remember seeing somewhere in a YouTube comment when I was saying about it, because I kept saying whenever I see it, I go, I'm a Deus, I'm a Deus, I'm a Deus. Whenever I see it, that's my like somebody said to me, "Thank you, you're the first streamer I've had who says that name right," because everyone doesn't know how to say the word Deus.
I assumed it was Diaz. But
But yeah,
yeah, that is on record. I understand that Ribbon Dancer is very strong synergistically,
yeah.
but Dune Keeper is just stupid, and I'm surprised it hasn't been nerfed yet.
Mm. I mean, yeah, no, it's a very powerful one drop, for Shurima. Let's face it,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like what it can accomplish and what it can do.
I was just trying to tell a stupid joke comparing two very
How
equally statted cards.
how dare
Yeah,
you?
I got the brunt of the fucking community. I had people like someone who doesn't follow me DM'd me and like requested DMs open so that they could just yell at me. I was like, bro, it ain't that deep.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you get that occasionally. People are passionate, buddy boo. People are
Yeah,
passionate,
yeah. It's
and
like,
it's something to like. The one card I want to see how it works. It's gonna be a shock, but Shadows of the Past is the
right.
one card I want to see how it works. Because, allow me to explain why.
Please go ahead.
um, so it's the 5 mana fast speed. Recall each ally and summon a living legend in its place. Now, when I originally first said about this card, I said that I didn't think it was going to be that good because it's most likely it's trying to help Zed go up, but it would be recalling Z. But I might be wrong about this fact because it says recall each ally and summon this. So the reason why I want to know, because it doesn't say the word all, it doesn't say recall all allies, it just says recall each ally. So I want to know if you can decide which allies go back and which allies don't. Because if you get to decide, that actually becomes a far more powerful card than when first looking at it. Now, obviously, until we get to use these cards and actually see how this card works in action, it's really hard to say. But, like, because basically the ability of being able to do that means that, number one, it becomes a really powerful source of maybe being able to level Z. Because let's say you have Z on the board, 5 other units, would you go forward with those units and then use this card, changing all 5 of them into shadow, which are living shadows, and you can leave Z on the board. There's a slight chance that you could get him towards a level up, if you see what I mean. But
Yeah.
it's very much dependent. It's just because the way the card is worded, it doesn't say all. It just says recall each ally and summon this. So until I see how that card operates, it's really hard to evaluate that.
It's really funky. So I would assume it recalls everything. I'd hope it recalls everything. But also, you just because you said living legend, not living shadow, my mind just wandered to the idea of like a 5 cost that replaces your entire board with celestials, and how fucking funky that would be.
Oh my god, that'd be a devastating card. We need that card. We need that card in the game. I would be remiss, like, as I think that if we go through and just choose some of our favorites and our thoughts very quickly on them.
Yeah.
Let's go with this. So I'd be remiss if I didn't say that I really, really want to try out the what you get, like Aptomaton or whatever it's
Yeah.
called, the 3000, the Hyman thing.
Adaptotron.
Exactly, because upon first reading, I did not actually read the fact that this shares
I was
keyword.
screaming at my computer. Like, I was watching your reveal video and I was like, he'll figure it out, he'll get it!
I was a fool, and I can admit this now. But these are what happens when you don't read things properly. It shares the keywords, meaning that cards such as Production Surge actually become useful without Heimer. Right, the thing of it is that I've always said that Production Surge is one of those cards whereby it's good for defense or attack, but it's far superior with Heimer because it's going to do most of the level up for Heimer. But now with this card on the board, giving those keywords, like, shared between all of them, the potentials of what that could mean, especially if you were to get elusive, quick attack, overwhelm, and then boom, throw them down on top of that 8/8, what's his face, like, T-Rex. Like, there's so many different things this card can make happen. It makes Heimer like so much more viable in one card.
Yeah, Adaptatron is kind of like a storage facility for keywords. Every time you play one of these turrets, it gets that keyword, but it holds onto it for future turrets you might play. So, like, as you're going up the ladder and you're playing your turrets, when you play your T-Hex, like, it gets everything that you've stored in your Adaptatron. I am so hyped to play this deck. It sounds so much fun.
Yep. I mean, as a Heimer player, it has to be done, right? I will admit that when I first looked at this card, it just looked like a box of chips or fries. Like, in terms of like the finishing, until you realise they're little tiny little flying bot things that come out of the top of it. But really,
Adaptatron, the Happy Meal.
like, adapt on the Happy Meal indeed, and it will make your bot. It will make all of your tech very happy. So the one thing that I think is the best about that is I would love to see anyone who is reading that who doesn't actually know that Heimer's cards are called tech, and then it says whenever you summon a tech, what the hell does that mean? What cards is this going? That's the one thing that I hope happened to some people. It probably didn't, but in my
no,
head,
it totally did. Like, but people have no reason to know that Heimerdinger's turrets are called tech because they're fucking. His level up condition is I've seen you summon turrets.
yes.
I'm trying to think, like, I don't even know what my favorite card from this set would be. I really like the design of now. I'd like to preface this
Yeah.
by saying,
Yes.
if you are low on resources, do not craft this card. It is undeniably terrible. But the dumb 8 cost 3/5 with elusive, with when you blade dance, I attack with the blades. I am so ready to to play like 100 games so that I can OTK with that card once.
I mean, you say, I mean, it depends on how big Blade Dance becomes and how big, like, like that whole thing works. But potentially, especially with the amount of times you could potentially Blade Dance in a turn, continuously hitting forward with free damage can slowly but surely grind your opponent if they've got no elusive defense, because this thing just will just keep coming at you and coming at you and coming at you. It can be a powerful card. I wouldn't say, as you say, I wouldn't say it's one of those cards to definitely craft at the beginning of the set if you're low on resources. Probably give it a little bit and wait. But it still could be have the potential of being quite a powerful card, like depending on how things shake out, if you know what I
Yeah.
mean.
I know that this doesn't exist yet, and if we're going to get it, it's going to be on a Demacian card, but I wish it just said, I strike the enemy Nexus.
Hmm.
Like, the fact that it attacks forward there's just so many steps where your opponent can interact with this,
Hmm.
which interactivity is good and all, but if there is too many, like, mounds to go over with your 8 cost epic spell, then, like, you're probably not going to make it to the finish line.
Yep. True. True. I would also like to which it mentioned like Cythria. We're getting another
Ah,
incarnation of Cythria. So there's four of them in the game now.
I
um
I really like her art.
yeah, I like number one, I love her art. I love the way that, like, obviously, like, the fact that, like, you're seeing the journey and telling the story. She's a 10 cost 10/10 with challenge. When I'm summoned, double other, which you get, like, like other allies' power and health, and grant them challenge. Now, what is the crazy thing about this is the fact that obviously number one, she's an elite, so she's got elite synergy. But number two, the potential chance of running her with Shadow Isles and then using Spectral Matron to get, because it is a summon effect, not a play effect, about doubling others' allies, which are like her power and health. So Spectral Matron, grabbing her out of your hand, depending on what your board state is, will be doubling the power and health of everyone and giving them challenge. As well as the fact that that is also mean that that Spectral Matron is already going up to a 12/12, right?
A 12/12 challenger,
A,
yeah,
a 12/12
permanently.
challenger with
Fearsome.
fearsome.
Yeah.
So there's certain synergies there that I cannot wait to have so much stupid fun with.
Sig-
And
Significantly less competitive, but what I was going to do with Cythria, probably this is one of my day one decks, because Bubble Man is already in Demacia, and Demacia has
Bubble
a lot of
Man.
way. Bubble Man, because Demacia has a lot of ways of creating units, or not a lot, but a reasonably high number of unit creation spells
Yes.
to not have a lot of low cost units. I'm gonna probably play War Mother Cythria.
I
Like, because
love it.
you can play Valor, like the 2 cost Valor spell. You can play Dauntless Vanguard, the 3 cost spell, and then just a smattering of powerful low cost units, just like a reasonably low number. And then you've got Bubble Man, you've got Cythria, you've got whatever Freljord has to offer, which is a ton. And I think it's going to be good fun.
I mean,
Big boards.
that does sound like it's going to be a lot of fun. May I combat you with the other plan
Uh huh.
of using Targon's Peak? Aurelian Soul and Cythria are on the board.
2020 Spell Shield Dragon levels himself up.
I mean, yes. I mean, with Asold having the ability to do most of his own level ups there,
Yeah.
I like the idea of that. It's
Yeah.
so stupid, but at the same point, yes.
So many meme decks for just the crafting of one card. Like,
Yeah.
if you are more of a fun focused player and you're on a budget, Cythria does seem like the pick.
Hmm. I would also say that, like the posse, the steam worker
Oh
posse,
yeah.
also the Turian, which is slump worker, who basically when you summon another one of them, transform all the copies everywhere into the posse, which is a 4/2 elusive, but it whenever it attacks, it's dealing 1 damage to all enemies and the Nexus. The I feel I might be proven wrong, but I feel the best slot for this card is Shadow Isles.
100%.
Because the ability of using fading memories, so number one, getting this out, they're using fading memories, and then as a finisher, the potential of Harrowing to like, so if all of these die along the way, Harrowing just brings back all these elusives that upon them attacking forward. So it's much like my Beardy Man deck in terms of, like, I always say that what you get, the Beardy Man Legion Emeralda is always best in Shadow Isles because even if they die along the way, Harrowing brings them all back. Like, similar kind of thing with this is that then boom, they all come back and are all doing one damage upon attacking forward. So I feel like that's going to be a really funny deck and definitely one that I will be trying out.
Uh, I think this card will surprise us and end up being like more competitively viable than it looks on the surface. I also this card makes me question what it takes to be an epic in Legends of Runeterra because I always assumed that epics were the cards with like the most text that were the hardest to understand for new players, but it's really just starting to seem like there's a correlation between a card being epic and a card being bad. Like I think they are actually just balancing their cards based on how hard they are to craft, which is great. I would love if that was actually the truth. Like if they were making it so that cards they suspect are going to be worse, they make more expensive so as to not like put a barrier to entry on competitive play. But like I just assumed it was the same as the Magic the Gathering system where it was like mythics were the cards with the most text that were like hard to understand.
You've got to be. Wait a minute, I can't remember which, because obviously we're in P and Z right now, right?
Yeah.
So what? I can't remember what is the card text of that guy who I believe is in P and Z, and he when he dies he gives you an epic. But I can't remember whether it's in your regions or out of your regions. He creates an epic in hand. I can't remember whether it's inside the regions that you've got or any region.
I can check real
Basically,
quickly.
if which is, but what I'm trying to say is that maybe they're not an epic because if he gave you the potential of getting this card, if you're not running a deck which is running this, then it would not level up unless you had like other ways of like, I don't know,
I see. Yeah,
like there's certain things, like, I mean, it could have definitely been put up to an epic potentially rather than a common, but I love the fact that it is common because it's cheap to cut, which is cheap to craft, and then you can have a little bit of a laugh with it. So I love
yeah.
it.
It is tons of fun, and yeah, Eminent Benefactor is in your region.
Yes, that's what I mean. Like, but I can't remember what element benefactor what his card text is. Is it? Oh, sorry, you did say in your region. Sorry,
Yeah.
ignore me, ignore me,
Yeah.
ignore me. I'm just like listening to my own trail of thoughts.
One more card I think, or at least for I would say one more from my perspective that I think is
Yes.
very worth talking about
Yeah.
is Callista, but on a common. Merciless Hunter in Shurima continues the trend of Shuriman cards being statted absolutely ridiculously. It's starting to become a part of Shurima's identity that the numbers at the bottom are just way better than the number at the top.
I mean, you're not wrong. I mean, you're not wrong.
Merciless Hunter being a 4/3 fearsome, grant an enemy vulnerable. It's very boring. Like, it's really boring. It's not a particularly interesting card, but just for, if we're talking in the realms of competitive playability, this is a really, really good 3 cost.
I mean, yeah, definitely like, a really solid free cross for the region. The fearsome is like with that stat line is powerful as well as that. Obviously, it gives vulnerable, and it's like a one that would go off on curve if you were playing a Renekton deck. Like it goes on curve and then go into Renekton. You've given something vulnerable. Boom. So it's a very powerful card. As you say, like I feel like a lot of people in the community went crazy when they saw this card. Said, "Oh my god, Shurima finally has a good free cost." Whereas
Yeah.
when I saw it, I was like, "Nah, it's okay. It's a good card that's probably gonna be viable, but I don't care. I go for the meme decks. This is kind of meh to me."
Yeah, when I read it, I was like, okay, cool, that is powerful. But that's usually my response to boring, powerful cards.
Yeah, that was my response.
People who say finally Shurima has a good 3 cost are ignoring literally every other 3 cost in Shurima. Like the Devoted Council are perfectly fine. Xenograph researchers are pretty fucking powerful, and if you happen to be in Sun Disc, then Disc Man the 3/4 is like
Yeah.
is statted the same as Badger Bear. Like
Hmm. Yeah, no, yeah,
these cards are all fine.
it is legit like a really good card, and yeah, as you say, there's a lot of other really good free costs in this. So like, people maybe overreacted slightly on that on that point.
Yeah.
The last card that I'd like, because I don't know whether or not we're going to start wrapping up, but if we do, the last card that I do want to mention is one of the Bilgewater cards, the Bone Skewer.
Mm.
I feel like this is actually a really interesting card, but also a really good card for the region. Um, Especially when you consider the fact, so for anyone who doesn't know, Bone Skewer is the 2 mana fast speed spell, which is uh, an ally strikes an enemy, then moves to the top of your deck. Now, it is a loss of tempo, but at the same point, this is also a saving unit spell. Like in terms of if somebody's trying to target something that you want to be keeping around, it allows you to basically like get a free strike, and then this unit goes back into your deck, and so it's going to be safe. And for 2 mana, like it's the one thing that the region hasn't really had too much of in terms of like that kind of counter ability, if you understand what I mean, like for cheap, like
Yeah.
that. And there's a number of really good uses in that, because bear in mind that we are in the region which has a number of plunder mechanics, and so the ability to be able to use this to kill something potentially on your opponent's side, then put on the top of your deck another unit that has already used its plunder mechanic, and then get that plunder mechanic out again, is going to be really powerful. And obviously, I'm guessing that this is like, one of those cards which is setting us up for when Pike joins us, like in terms of like art style and how it's looking. I'm guessing that's what it's going to be, setting us up for that. But it's a really nice card.
Yeah. Shout out to the absolute saints, the gentleman Skarzig. He pointed out that Bone Skewer is extremely good in deep because it lets you at fast speed let your 3/2 life steal, whatever that card's called. What is that? Dead Bloom, something Dread Bloom.
Dead Bloom, yeah,
Yeah,
something, yeah.
yeah. The
Wanderer,
ability to redraw that card and also heal for 3 and probably snipe out something on your opponent's board is a great tempo gain, if not loss. You would like drawing the Dead Bloom early game is better than drawing pretty much any other card in your deck. So, it resetting your good toss cards with this card seems really good.
oh yeah, no, yeah,
And it's
for sure.
obviously already in your colors.
Mm. You know, for
Uh,
sure, though, it's a really powerful card, definitely in deep, and we've said some of the other archetypes there. So it's really like it's that really good design that people might have overlooked.
yeah. Um, Are we? Shall we wrap up? I can't. There's probably. Oh, so that the internet doesn't like, take our heads. Yes, Chip exists.
Yes, no. Chip is, let's face it, the one and only champion of the whole set.
Yeah. And now that we've got that out of the
the
way,
main big boy of the set.
yeah. Okay. Shall we wrap up?
Yeah, no, I feel like we've hit our past hour mark. Let's go.
Yep. Okay. Do you trust me to do the close up because I fucked up the opening thrice?
Thank you all so much for listening. I hope that you had a good time.
That's the good answer.
Yes, that's a good answer. I'll go straight into it. So, yes, obviously, if you didn't know, you can catch the Voice of the Old Ones podcast on YouTube, Spotify, SoundCloud. Am I missing anything?
Your grandma's television.
Your grandma's television. It's old. It's like one of those ones you have to tune in the color and everything, but it's okay. It's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
So yeah, so you want to catch us on all these things. There will also be the links to our channels, both me and Janky stream, as well. So if you want to check that out, the links will be down below and whatnot. But honestly, thank you all so much for listening. I hope you had a good time. And gained some form of insight, maybe, or just had a laugh. Like, let's face it. Yeah. I can't think of anything else to say, buddy, but unless there's anything else you want to chime in with.
No. Thank you so much for watching.
Indeed.